Today we're going to be learning about the bow drill, and I'll be demonstrating it for you. To offer some context for every explanation I give hereafter, I want to just demonstrate what the action of the bow drill looks like. Okay, this is what the basic action, when someone says they're going to use the bow drill to create a fire, this is the action that they mean. And what's happening here is my spindle is spinning as I bring the bow back and forth. And what that does, it's going to create friction between this spindle here and my hearth plate. That's this board my left foot is on. Now let's talk about the individual components of the bow drill and how they're made. So what I need to do this is I need a bow, which is a slightly curved piece of wood with a notch at two ends, so I can fasten my rope in between each end. And as you saw, this is going to grip the spindle. And as I pull the bow back and forth, it's going to rotate the spindle. Now the spindle itself on one end is more pointed. And this is the point that goes into my hand block. My hand block is a piece of hardwood with a little bit of a notch in it that I created. On the other end of the spindle, it is more rounded over. And this is to create more friction between the spindle and the hearth board. Now the hearth board is a mostly flat piece of wood, and I just took this out of a piece of cedar. And to start, I just make a slight notch in my hearth board about 3/4 or so of an inch back from the edge of the hearth, board. And then this spindle fits right into that notch. It is important that the spindle and the hearth board be made of the same material. And it either be poplar or cedar or a piece of wood that has a low ignition temperature. Makes this a lot easier. My handle board is a hardwood. And this is because I don't want my spindle to be digging in or creating a fire between my hand and the spindle. First step in creating a friction fire using a bow drill is to just make the little hole with my knife, which I did. I just carved out about an inch back a hole, or more like a little divot, into my hearth board, and only went down about 1/16 of an inch into my hearth board. The next thing I need to do is I need to drill this divot that I made into my hearth board out a little bit more, so that I can then add a notch to my hearth board so that I can allow oxygen to get to this combustion reaction. So let's do that. Here's the V notch that I made. Next, I want to carve out the back side of this V notch, that is on the underside of the board here, to again allow more oxygen to get to that reaction. Alrighty, as you can see, carved out the backside now. Now we're ready to begin creating a friction fire. So what I've done here is I've placed a little piece of cedar underneath my hearth board. Next, where I've made that notch, I'm going to take a leaf and place that right underneath the notch itself. What that's going to do is as I rotate the spindle, I'm going to create heat due to friction. I'm also going to have a fuel, which is going to be the wood dust created. And then the oxygen we have in the air. When I string my spindle through, I put my spindle on the inside of the rope, between the rope and the bow. And then I go up so that the spindle head is now on the outside of the rope, and then I push down. And that keeps the spindle on the outside of the rope so it's not hitting my hand. Now I'm right-handed and I position my left foot. I next then place my spindle into my notch, and my handle goes on to the end of the notch. Now I use my left leg here to steady my hand. Without this support, I'd be shaking all over the place with my left hand. Now when I do this action, I want to keep a comfortable position, meaning I want my back to be straight. I don't want to be hunched over this like this. This requires a lot of physical exertion. And I want to remember to breathe and be as comfortable as possible. So let's begin. Alrighty, as you can see, this is smoking. It means we have created a coal here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this. Now, I take my bird's nest, and now I don't have to rush this. I can wait a little bit, but eventually I'm going to put it right in the center of my bird's nest and then blow it into a fire. So very gently, all right, and there you have it. And we could easily kindle that into a fire.